If an aircraft is registered in one country, operated in another, and maintained in a third, who is actually the boss when an inspector walks into the hangar?
Welcome to another episode of Mastering EASA Part M from Phoenix Way Academy, powered by Avenix Group. Hi, I am Sarah.
Hi, and I am Sam. In this episode, we will cover M.1 General, the competent authority.
Yeah, so this deep dive is honestly all about untangling a massive jurisdictional puzzle, right? So you know exactly who holds the clipboard.
Right, because, you definitely do not want to be guessing when an inspector actually shows up. So let us look at M.1 Clause 1.
Okay, let us start with the physical machine itself.
The text says quote, the oversight of the continuing airworthiness of individual aircraft and the issue of airworthiness review certificates, end quote. It is the authority designated by the member state of registry.
Exactly. The tail number is kind of your baseline boss.
So, if an Airbus has a French tail number, the French authority oversees that specific metal tube.
Yeah, absolutely. But, well, what if that French plane breaks down and is getting wrenched on in Brazil?
Ah, right, the mechanics. That brings us to M.1, Clause 2.
Right, and Clause 2 covers the maintenance organization. It says oversight goes to the authority where their, quote, principal place of business is located.
Okay, so jurisdiction jumps from the registry to the physical shop. Like, a local shop in Spain just answers to Spain.
Yeah, but there's a twist in Clause 2. If the shop is in a third country, like your Brazilian example,
Wow.
they answer directly to the agency.
Oh, wow, wait. Yes, it just steps in directly.
Exactly. So to summarize that first part, the state of registry oversees the machine itself, but the physical location dictates who oversees the mechanics.
That makes total sense, keeping it tied to physical reality. But what about the paperwork? Approving maintenance schedules across borders sounds, frankly, like a massive headache.
Oh, it really can be. But M.1, Clause 3, has a pretty clever fix. Normally, approving the aircraft maintenance program, the AMP, goes to the state of registry, but Clause 3 allows the state of registry to transfer that power if they agree beforehand.
Wait, transfer it to who, exactly?
Well, to the state where the operator is based, or the authority overseeing the continuing airworthiness management organization, the CAMO.
Okay, but let me push back on that a little. If an Irish-registered fleet uses a German CAMO, letting Germany just approve the paperwork sounds like a huge regulatory loophole to bypass red tape.
I mean, it would be if they could just do it on a whim. But the guidance materials, specifically GM1 for M.1 subclass 3, is super strict.
How so?
It requires a formal written contract between the member states first. It is not just a handshake.
Oh, okay.
And they do it because it allows the CAMO to use an indirect approval procedure.
Oh, right. So instead of the Irish authority manually rubber stamping minor updates from 1,000 miles away, the German CAMO handles it internally with a pre-approved system.
Exactly. It clears up bureaucratic bottlenecks while keeping the paper trail totally secure.
That is smart. So who actually oversees the CAMO then?
That is M.1, Clause 4. It lays out a simple geographic rule. If it is an independent CAMO, not part of an air operator certificate, they answer to the state where their main office is.
Got it. So an independent Italian CAMO answers to Italy.
Right. But if the approval is included in an air operator certificate, they answer to the member state of the operator.
Like an airline's internal department answers to the airline's home state.
Exactly. And just like before, if the CAMO is in a third country, boom, they answer directly to the agency.
Okay, so authority cascades logically from the aircraft down to the paperwork managers and out to the mechanics. No overlapping jurisdictions. But what happens inside a single country?
Good question. The acceptable means of compliance, AMC for M.1, allows a member state to designate more than one competent authority.
Really? Like multiple bosses?
Sort of. Like a ministry might handle one duty and a national aviation authority handles another. But, and this is key, there is only one competent authority responsible for each given area.
So the boundaries are crystal clear. You always know exactly who holds the clipboard. It really is a brilliant, invisible web of jurisdiction trailing behind every aircraft.
It really is.
But before we wrap up, jurisdiction right now is perfectly tied to physical borders and registries.
Yeah, that is true.
It makes you wonder, how will these strict geographical lines hold up when we start seeing decentralized fleets of autonomous drones operated entirely from the cloud?
Yeah.
Whose jurisdiction are you in then?
Oh, wow. That is a wild thought. Definitely something for you to mull over next time you look up at the sky.
In the next episode, we will cover Subpart A, General, M.A.101 Scope, and Subpart B, Accountability, M.A.2 01 responsibilities.
Once again, our episodes are up, but remember, you can find many more trending topics on our YouTube channel, Phoenix Way Academy. Hope to see you there soon, but for now, take care and goodbye.